see who don't get the recognition they deserve. Let's make sure they should not be subject to political retribution or retaliation. I urge the members to vote yes.
Senator Lee.
Mr. Chairman, we've just emerged from a 4-year period in which the U.S. government was weaponized against the American people. It was weaponized for blatantly partisan political purposes. More evidence about that comes out every single day. It would be tone deaf, to put it really mildly, for us today to adopt a measure that would protect people in some of those same agencies who may have been involved in the deliberate political weaponization for partisan political gain, specifically for the purpose of trying to imprison then President Biden's last standing impediment to becoming a second-term president. So I honestly can't believe we're even having to have this conversation. But to say that people in those agencies, and again, it's not all of them, but it's certainly some of them, and there will be an effort to figure out who was a bad actor and who was not. To say that we're going to protect all of them and protect any of them from being fired, even if they engaged in some of these dastardly acts, this is offensive, and our constituents, those who elected us, would be really upset with us with darn good reason if we supported this. I urge my colleagues to oppose it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd simply say, as a member who was here on January 6th, when the Capitol Police and FBI defended virtually all of us, to somehow say that protecting them would be an insult, I find remarkable.
Mr. Chairman, that is not at all what I said. And I want to be very clear for the purposes of the record that in no way, shape, or form is that what I said. I made no reference to any of the people who are protecting us. I'm talking about those people. They know who they are. The Trump administration at some point will figure out who they are. I'm talking about those people who engaged in politically weaponized, indefensible acts. We should not immunize them. Not on my watch, not on our watch. I oppose it.
All debate is expired. Senator Kane, number 5.
Kane 5 is about a program that helps people all over the country, but it also, I think, affects a lot of young people in this room, would be my suspicion, and it's public service loan forgiveness. Public service loan forgiveness was created during the Bush presidency. It was created in 2007, and the idea was to get people to come be teachers, firefighters, police, public servants who are working at the Capitol, inner city teachers. The program languished, and during the first Trump presidency, only 7,000 people, about 3% of those who applied for public service loan forgiveness, were granted it by the Department of Education. In the last administration, the pace of approval significantly expanded to match what the program was intended to do when it was passed in the Bush administration. 1 million applicants were forgiven loans because of their public service, including 33,000 Virginians. The purpose of Kane 5 is to create a point of order against cuts to public service loan forgiveness. The instruction asked help to come up with a bunch of money. I am worried that what help may do, because I've heard it discussed that carving back on public service loan forgiveness may be one of the things that help does to try to meet the instruction in this particular reconciliation. And because we want to encourage public servants like the young staffers who are working in this room, I would ask for support on a point of order against cuts to the public service loan forgiveness program.
Senator Kennedy.
Mr. Chairman, this committee does not have the legal jurisdiction to create such a point of order. And for that reason, the amendment is out of order.
All debates expired. Senator Van Hollen, 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colleagues, Van Hollen Amendment 3 creates a point of order against legislation that would cut funding for the National School Lunch Program or the School Breakfast Program. I hope we would all agree, I think we agree, that we all want our kids to have the nutrition and food that they need to have healthy lives. And of course, the School Breakfast Program and School Lunch Program are part of that effort. For kids who come from families who cannot afford the food to make sure that their kids have what they need. That's exactly why we have these two programs. Nearly 14 million children experience food insecurity just in the last year. 1 in 5 kids don't know where their next meal will come from. This is, again, an issue that nobody ran on in the last election. Candidate Trump didn't say he wanted to cut food nutrition programs. Again, if you look at Project 2025, which he claimed not to know anything about, these are on the chopping block. So this would create a point of order, colleagues, just to make sure that we protect these important nutrition programs for our kids, and I urge its adoption.
Senator Ricketts. No, I'm sorry. Senator Moreno, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. So I think we need to think about how this is implemented currently. So let me tell you a little story about a school in a little city just outside Toledo, Ohio. 99% of the kids in this school are either African American or, like me, Hispanic. Most of them low income, and they don't teach those kids that they're victims. They don't teach these kids DEI. They refuse to do that. It's a Hillsdale model school. They teach the kids science, math, reading, critical thinking. And the Department of Education didn't like that so much, and so they took away their school lunch program to force them into submission. So our viewpoint as the Republican Party is that the better answer is to get rid of the Department of Education in its entirety. It should never have been created. It's completely unconstitutional, and move the entirety of that funding to schools and local communities where parents can make those kinds of decisions. Because I can tell you this, as somebody who didn't speak English until I was 7 or 8 years old, my parents never allowed me to feel like a victim. And the fact that the federal government would take away my ability to have nutrition because teachers refused to tell me and beat it into my head that somehow I would be a victim is a disgrace, and that's what we're fighting against.
Mr. Chairman, with respect, because I think we have a little bit of rebuttal time, I'm more than happy to debate the proposals to dismantle the Department of Education. I think it's a really bad idea, but this is about the school lunch program and the school breakfast program. And I don't think anybody in the last campaign heard people talking about getting rid of these important nutrition programs. So maybe you did. I didn't follow the campaign that closely, but this would create a point of order to protect those programs, and I ask for its adoption.
Yeah, the point, I have a few seconds left. The point is, let's not have a conversation about the federal government controlling schools all over the country, and that definitely was on the campaign trail.
Right, but this is the school lunch program. It's not about controlling school, but look forward to continuing the debate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is that it? Okay. That was interesting. All time has expired on that amendment. Senator Padilla, number 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I call up Padilla Amendment number 5, which would create a deficit-neutral reserve fund relating to protecting communities from fentanyl by prohibiting the diversion of law enforcement resources away from fentanyl-related investigations and prosecutions for other purposes. Now, President Trump began his second term in office by declaring a national emergency at the southern border. In this executive order, he continued to push the false narrative that the fentanyl crisis in America is strictly an immigration problem. But let's be clear. CBP data shows that over 90% of fentanyl that is seized at the ports of entry is trafficked by United States citizens. The recent changes by the Trump administration at the Department of Justice, including at the FBI, the DEA, and ATF, have shifted critical resources away from fentanyl investigations and towards immigration enforcement. Now, just last week, the Senate Judiciary Committee held a hearing entitled "The Poisoning of America." The witnesses at that hearing testified that diversion of these resources hurts our efforts to bring criminal groups to justice and weakens the ability of the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force. The witnesses also shared data that shows the vast majority of fentanyl comes in at legal ports of entry by U.S. citizens, as I mentioned previously. So, colleagues, we all claim to be serious about addressing the fentanyl problem in America. Senator Ricketts, you spoke very eloquently earlier in this hearing. I take you at your word, so then please join me in protecting that funding and not letting it be diverted to other purposes. I urge you all colleagues to help protect law enforcement resources dedicated to fentanyl-related investigations and prosecutions from being raided or diverted to other purposes. So please support this amendment.
I appreciate my
Ricketts.
colleague from California and wanting to address the fentanyl crisis, because it is a fentanyl crisis. What we saw in Nebraska, which I outlined earlier, was the dramatic increase of drugs coming into our state after Biden implemented his open border policies. And so you talk about the drugs that are coming through at ports of entry and catching those. What about the drugs coming in between ports of entries, right? That's what this process is about. This reconciliation bill is about trying to stop fentanyl from entering our country by closing down our border and giving the president the resources he needs to be able to do that. As I mentioned, we had 46 pills in 2019 that were laced with fentanyl taken off our streets. And just in the first 6 months of the Biden administration, that jumped to 151,000. It was twice as much methamphetamine, 3 times the amount of fentanyl, and 10 times the amount of cocaine coming across after Biden opened the borders. This bill, this reconciliation bill, is about trying to make sure that we close that down. That's why I'm going to urge my colleagues to vote against this amendment and make sure we keep the reconciliation bill focused on making sure that we're defending our border and giving the resources needed to the president.
Mr. Chairman, just in response,
Absolutely.
I want to remind my colleagues that there's 2 different components here. Again, nobody disagrees with committing efforts to prevent the importation of fentanyl or its precursor ingredients. Nobody disagrees with that. And we can look at the numbers as to how much comes from ports of entry versus between ports of entry, who it is that's carrying it across the border. Our data shows it's primarily U.S. citizens. Preventing the importation is one thing. The funding that's being diverted from programs and personnel to crack down on fentanyl is going towards enforcement action, the detention of deportation of individuals who are not crossing the border, people who are here, who have been here in roughly half the cases, not violent criminals, far in the interior. This has nothing to do with the border. But if this goes as we're seeing, it's going to shift resources away from fentanyl crackdowns for something unrelated to keeping more from coming across the border. That's what I'm trying to get at. Appreciate your support for this amendment.
Thank you. All debate has expired on that amendment. Consulting with the ranking member, I think we'll take a recess to 4:45. We'll vote on the pending amendments and keep going. 4:45. 4:45. Recess to 4:45. You go out and play, get ice cream. Find somebody to buy you an ice cream.
Yeah, I see where you're going. It's more about getting at the idea of let's do the